Tell us a little bit about what you saw and being able to relay that message to Cora when you watched Kimbrel pitch and kind of help out so he wasn't tipping his pitches.
So tipping pitches, we hear about it all the time.
People at home understand what tipping pitches is all about.
It's amazing. And
that's remarkable.
Alex, we lost the greatest living baseball player, Willie Mays. Died at 93 this past week. And so this week I wanted to start the podcast by honoring him with a quote from one of the other greatest baseball players who's ever lived. This quote, which I came across while reading friend of the podcast Clinton Yates' column about the passing of Willie Mays. This quote comes from Ted Williams, who
heard of him.
Essentially invented modern hitting. Ted Williams said about Willie Mays, they invented the All-Star game for Willie Mays. I don't know why I was reading that and it stuck with me so much, but having one guy like Ted Williams say that about another guy like Willie Mays and then think about everything that the All-Star game has become, to think about a time before the All-Star game existed and a player so great that you have to create a celebratory weekend in honor of his talents and his magnitude and his superstardom. For some reason, as I think about all of the retrospectives and the commemorations of Willie Mays this past week that I've consumed, I'm just thinking about him as the All-Star. Not the All-Star in the way that we talk about like voting someone into the All-Star game or the one representative from their teams, but he is the star to end all stars. And we lost him this past week. And the baseball world is a little dimmer without that star.
Yeah, it was one of those notifications that I did a real life double take at. I think he's someone who like is easy to sort of take for granted in terms of his place in the game, and the fact that he was still with us for so long. His legacy had such a long tail, and I mean, growing up in the Bay Area, I kind of would see, you know, he would make his appearances at Giants games and that sort of thing, and so there was clearly an awareness of like how large his shadow loomed over the sport, but there are no words, I think, that aptly describe his legacy in the sport and the impact that he had on it. There's a very real and maybe easy case to be made that he's the greatest player of all time. I mean, your mileage may vary on this one way or the other. You mentioned Ted Williams. People will bring up Babe Ruth. But like, taking it all into consideration, the time frame in which he played, the way that the sport was growing, and the recent integration of the sport, like, he not only like statistically was one of the best to ever play the game, but just in terms of like a cultural figure who helped bring the sport to new masses, it's impossible to like overstate the impact that he had.
He's one of the greatest, but also one of the most singular. There's nobody who's had a career quite like that length and that time period, as you mentioned. We're going to try to talk a little bit about more about the enormity of Willie Mays' career. We have some updating to do of our most evil jersey sponsors ranking. We have some listener questions and some fun stuff to chat about at the end of this podcast. But before we get to all of that, I am Bobby Wagner.
I'm Alex Baisley.
And you are listening to Tipping Pitches. You know, you mentioned seeing the notification when Willie Mays passed coming across, and it's one of those ones that you truly do a double take on because you just never imagined that series of words together, even though you can think about the fact that he was 93, even though you think about when was his peak was the 1950s. Like, logically, it all makes sense, but emotionally, it just doesn't click into place until you really realize that we've lost one of the greatest baseball players of all time. And I think that was one of the things that people immediately started to talk about was this was the greatest living baseball player. Now who is it? Now who does this torch pass down to? It's a somewhat unbelievable that the person that it probably passes down to is literally his godson, Barry Bonds, which is just a quirk of our beloved sport, you know, that it's a small world when you really think about it. These collection of 1,200 baseball players at any one time, and they all know each other. seemingly. I might argue that he's now the greatest non-living baseball player too. He may have just been the greatest to have ever done it.
Yeah.
It's a fool's errand to try to capture what his career looked like statistically in just a couple bullet points that I have here in my notes. But of the ones that stuck out to me just from opening up his baseball reference page while I was waiting for you to get over here this morning, first player to have 300 home runs and 300 steals. He just invented that.
Yep.
He's like, oh no, nobody ever did that before me. I'm just going to do it.
Right. For the first 70 years of the sport, you did one or the other.
Right. Exactly. 24 All-Star games, tied for the most ever. 24. That's 4 fewer years than you've been alive.
Hang on. I thought you said 24 All-Star games. I have to have misheard you, though.
4 fewer years than we've been alive. 156.2 career WAR. Remember when it was like the biggest accomplishment ever when Albert Pujols crossed 100 and really made just another 50%? 660 career home runs, 339 stolen bases, 3,187 career hits, 2-time MVP, first ballot Hall of Famer. He was top 6 in MVP voting 12 times, including 10 years in a row. And that's just a smattering of his accomplishments. Obviously, he is one of the most decorated players of baseball, but I think what you mentioned about the time period that he was doing it really struck a chord with me. He started his career. We had this celebration this past week, which is just unbelievably coincidental that all of this was happening in this past week. This celebration of the legacy of Birmingham baseball at Rickwood Field, which was the home of the Birmingham Barons, a Negro Leagues team that Willie Mays made his professional debut with at the age of 17 after he completed high school. He played 1 year there before being selected by the Giants, before being signed by the Giants. The draft did not exist yet. Before being signed by the Giants, and MLB had decided to host a game there. This is the oldest professional ballpark in America, Rickwood Field. MLB had decided prior to the season to host a game there honoring the legacy of the Negro Leagues as part of this sort of ongoing conversation, ongoing commemoration of the impact of the Negro Leagues on the history of baseball. And now as statistics have been folded in and as we passed the centennial a couple of years ago, MLB is making an effort to continue this commemorative spirit of the history of the Negro Leagues. It was announced a few days in advance that Willie Mays would not be able to travel for this event, even though he was hoping to have been able to do that because this is his hometown and he grew up like a 20-minute drive from Birmingham. And he was obviously going to feature heavily in the discussion and the commemoration of what this field and what this team and what the Negro Leagues, the Negro American Leagues, was what Birmingham was part of, meant to the history of baseball. And then a couple of days later, we find out that he passed away at the age of 93 in a statement from the Giants. It's an unbelievable coincidence, a moment of serendipity to give people the chance to gather in this way and honor Willie Mays' legacy and career and life and respect the person that he was and how much he meant to the entirety of the baseball community. But it's just one of those things where you look at it and you're like, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe this happened this way as all part of this. We know how far things have to be scheduled in advance for Major League Baseball to pull off executions like this, to host games in places, to have teams agree to come play on this field that is not either of their home fields. And this was a game between the Giants, Willie Mays' team, longest tenured team, I guess, 23 seasons with the Giants, and the St. Louis Cardinals. So you just have to shake your head and just think about the fact that there's something divine there. There's something divine going on, whether it's the baseball gods or your own personal god or whatever you believe in, just a stroke of luck of the universe, that everybody was already gathered in Birmingham this week to celebrate not just Willie Mays, but the history that Willie Mays was such a large part of. And I think about that. I think about his career, and I think about the way that we've talked about some of the icons of the baseball world that we've lost since we've started doing this podcast. And one of the things that we appreciate and admire and love and respect the most about baseball is its history. It's a game that's steeped in its history, steeped deeply in its history. And that's something that I think, when done well, adds a lot of value to the present. You can appreciate historical significance of things, and it can put into perspective what we're seeing now and everything that led us to this point. And when I envision baseball history, I envision it as this weaved thread, everything weaved together by the different strands of players and teams and places and communities. And sometimes I think of it more like a chain. And Willie Mays may be the biggest link in the chain from baseball past through baseball present into baseball's future. He is the type of star. He is the type of player, the quintessential 5-tool player that makes baseball sensational and unique and something that we love. And it's up to baseball media, it's up to baseball fans, it's up to baseball communities, it's up to Major League Baseball, the brand, to reinforce that chain and make sure that his legacy is properly acknowledged and make sure. And I think that they've done a good job of that. I think that this event, this game at Rickwood Field this past week, but also just his standing in Cooperstown, his standing across different organizations across Major League Baseball. I think of the Mets. I think of what the Cohens have done to retire his number and reinforce his legacy for the New York Mets. Even though he didn't play for very long there, he came back and was honored as a legendary figure of New York baseball, because I think a lot of people just thought of his career as taking place in San Francisco, but he was with the Giants before they moved. He was part of a huge expansion, but also his roots were in New York, and those roots are very deep in New York and in his community of Harlem, and his legacy of playing stickball while walking to the polo grounds, all of those things, and the Mets retiring his number commemorated that. I realize I've just been talking for like 7 straight minutes about just dumping all of my thoughts about this past week, but when you lose someone this big, it's like you're just catching it from all angles. You're just catching, like, there's nowhere you can go. It's almost like the sun doesn't set on Willie Mays' empire in the baseball world. And so this past week, I've just been delighted, but saddened. It's bittersweet to be awash in his legacy.
Yeah, I mean, well said. I don't think there's any way that you can kind of singularly capture the importance he's had on the game beyond just a sort of endless stream of thoughts, right? Because he's so ubiquitous. He's so woven into the fabric of the sport. And for a while, and this is still kind of the case, he was sort of a stand-in for like the idea of baseball, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was the sport. I mean, everyone knows about the basket catch, right? That's kind of one of the first things you learn as like a kid growing up is like,
he has the game's most famous play.
Yes. And also he liked to say that was not even his best catch. He did that all the time during the regular season.
Right.
Like he would downplay that. And yet it's one of those things that you did on the field as a kid, right? It was like, watch my bat flip and watch my Mays catch.
How good were you at that?
At the Mays catch?
Yeah.
Not very good, but I wasn't an outfielder. It's a lot less.
I was such a bad outfielder.
It's a lot less interesting when you're doing it at second base, on a pop-up. They're like, why are you turning around to catch the ball? Like
right,
this?
Exactly.
You don't need to do that.
Just let the right fielder get that one.
Yeah. He's memorialized in John Fogerty's Center Field, right? One of the quintessential like baseball songs that sort of tries to capture that magic of playing baseball as a kid. As was pointed out in the New York Times obituary for him, he was frequently referenced in the comic strip Peanuts. Charlie Brown, with whom I feel a kindred spirit, loved Willie Mays and would like bring him up all the time in his. And so it's just like I feel like a testament to a time when baseball was actually bleeding into other parts of the culture in a somewhat meaningful way.
Mm-hmm.
And Mays was that touch point for a lot of folks. I loved reading about his participation in the Home Run Derby TV show, which they televised for 1 year. It was like a weekly TV show where baseball stars would come on and do a home run derby. And so he was one of the most like recurring characters, I suppose you could say, because he was really good and won. And so he would be invited back next week, right? And he's playing alongside guys like Hank Aaron and Mickey Mantle and like that Mickey Mantle.
And that Hank Aaron.
And that Hank Aaron, right? He's also pretty well celebrated in Japan and was among the players who sort of, when doing tours over there in the 1950s, helped sort of elevate the popularity of the sport there. So like, it's really impossible to distill down the importance of him into just a few sentences or anything like that. But I feel like the best way to sort of recognize his importance, to see all the ways he touched the sport off the field and the culture off the field.
I mean, you listen to people up and down the baseball world, players, broadcasters, journalists, fans. It doesn't even matter what category you're trying to pick and choose from. Say that Willie Mays was the person who got them into baseball. And I think it's so fascinating because it's a lot about him as a player, watching him as a player and what he could do. This is a guy who hit 660 home runs. 660 home runs. He started his career on a field that was like 480 to left center. And he's a right-handed hitter, you know? Now, granted, it was 287 down the line, but I don't think every single home run that he hit when he played at the Polo Grounds was a dead pull. Not the way that baseball was played back then, at least.
Right.
But this is also a guy who could do everything. His most famous play is a defensive play. He stole bases at a time when the game desperately needed an infusion of athleticism and bang bang excitement.
Right. I think most outfield putouts in history.
Exactly. So he had the arm and the 5 tools as well. And also at the same time, you know, he wasn't called the say hey kid for nothing. He had this unbelievable smile. He had this youthful joy, the way that he went about the game. You know, when you mention the basket catch and he says, I used to do that all the time. Like, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's a guy who understands the swagger that his talent can afford him. And you watch some of the highlights, and granted, these are truly really old timey highlights. It's like shot on film, black and white. You know, he didn't play into the hugely televised 1980s, 90s, and 2000s. But his final season was 1973. This is the season that the Mets met the A's in the World Series. Like, we have television highlights of him playing, and I know we're talking a lot about the basket catch, but you watch some of his outfield highlights, and it's like he's just kind of fucking around a little bit out there because he knows he's so good.
Uh-huh.
He can catch line drives and pop flies underhand because he just has such a control and a grasp on his talents. And I mean, talk about someone who maximized those talents. But again, off the field, this is somebody who clearly deeply cared about the game of baseball. He is not someone who really waded into politics or social issues very much publicly. Granted, situationally, he was kind of forced into particularly race in America. This is someone who started his baseball career right after integration. Not immediately after, but a few years after integration, and while the league was still being fully integrated. So this is not to say that he had no opinions on this. Of course he had opinions on this, but he is someone who wanted to play for the love of the game and play at the highest level, and who dreamt of playing at Rickwood Field from the time that he was a child, and said that if he could play there, then that would be as satisfying an outcome to his baseball playing life as ever. And look at where that brought him. You know, look at the heights that brought him. And it's almost, I think that the largest compliment that I can pay him, I think it's impossible to imagine another career ever approaching his, because of the way the game has changed, because of the way that our relationship to the game as a culture has changed. But his combination of talent and hard work, longevity, and cultural relevance will likely never be seen again.
Completely agree. I mean, it does feel like a sort of end of an era for baseball, because he was this sort of bridge between old and new. You pointed out his relationship to Barry Bonds, and so many players today, from Mookie to Trout to Griffey, like cite Mays as one of their inspirations as a baseball player, one of the people who they looked up to. And so to lose a figure like him, it feels like a sort of, I don't know, tectonic shift in the history of baseball. I don't know. We're all far better fans and far better people for him having graced our sport.
Agreed. I feel lucky that he played baseball, you know, because he probably could have played any sport.
Yeah.
If you
he played basketball growing up as well.
Right,
like,
he played a lot of sports growing up. And this is like, I know we joke about this a lot, but like, when you talk about someone like Jackie Robinson, when you talk about someone like Willie Mays, they're growing up, they're like 4-sport athletes. You know, Jackie at UCLA could have gone to the Olympics as a sprinter, and they just decided to play baseball.
To play this sport.
This dumb sport.
Yeah.
This frustrating sport. But honestly, this deeply human sport. And I think that the humans that they are allowed us, that clarified what baseball is, you know? Like it's almost impossible to comprehend what baseball is, the humanity behind it, the passion behind it, the frustration behind it, without thinking about these transcendent figures like Willie Mays, who put into perspective just how good someone could be at it. Because then you're like, well, damn, I'm never going to be Willie Mays, you know, like, but I can try, I can dream. And that's what baseball is. I could go up to the plate and I can dream that I will get a hit, but most likely I will not.
Yep.
So obviously RIP, rest in peace to one of the greatest, if not the greatest baseball players of all time. I think the baseball world will feel the ripple effects of this loss, but also of this life for a long time to come. Why don't we take a quick break? Because there's no good segue that we could have out of this. And when we come back, we're going to do a handful of listener questions. We're going to play a couple audio clips for you. And then we will also place 2 new sponsors, 2 long-awaited sponsors, Alex, in our most evil jersey patch rankings.
So say, hey, Willie, tell the cow, and Joe DiMaggio, don't say it ain't so, you know the time is now.
Okay. 2 new teams. They sewed those patches onto those jerseys this past week. Well, the last couple weeks, really. We've been kind of tied up doing other stuff. Our first pod back together in
person, yeah.
In a month or so. You feel the energy?
I feel it.
Is there a little
it's crackling between
us
us
in the room?
Uh-huh.
This brings us up to 20 jersey patches now, right? 21 of 30 teams.
21.
Who are the 9 teams that are holding out?
That's great. You're about to see how many baseball teams I can actually name. The A's don't have one. I guess I can go divisionally.
I think underneath I wrote all the teams that don't have one.
God, you're such a good producer. The Nats don't have one. The Rays don't have one.
I don't think the Angels have one.
The Angels don't have one. The Mariners don't have one.
Based.
Phillies don't have one.
Oh, they'll get one soon.
Twins don't have one.
That's sick. They're going to put the Joe Biden patch on. The
I
whole
hope
ad
they
family's
do.
really trying to get Joe reelected.
No Rockies. No White Sox. No Cubs.
That's 10. You just named 10. Whatever.
Roughly 20 teams do have a jersey patch.
20 teams, give or take some teams, have a jersey patch.
Oh, the Angels do have one.
Oh, they do?
The FBM, bro.
Oh, right. Sorry. I'm so sorry to Artie Moreno. Those checks are still coming through. Don't worry. I know he's a valued listener of this pod. Okay. The Pirates and the Orioles got jersey patches this past week. We're going to talk about those jersey patches, and we are going to slot them into our ranking of the most evil jersey patches. As a reminder, if you have not listened to that episode of this podcast, it is some of the greatest work that we have ever done. I suggest you go back and listen to it. It was the most fun I have ever had doing an episode of this podcast. It is number 1 is the most evil. Okay. And number 21 now in this case is the least evil. I'm not trying to spoil anything, but I believe that both of those will be unchanged by these 2 editions. So the least evil right now is the New York Mets. They are sponsored by New York Presbyterian Hospital. Those people are fucking saving lives.
Yes, they are.
The New York Mets are saving lives. The most evil is the Houston Astros, who will be the New York Mets opponent next weekend on Pride Night. Wow. Coincidence? I think not.
Fascinating.
Coincidence? I think not. Their jersey sponsor is a little company called Oxy.
Yeah.
What do they do, Alex?
A cheeky little rebrand from them to name it after a different product that's ruining society. No, better known as Occidental Petroleum.
Yes. And they dig up petroleum.
They dig up petroleum. That's
One other thing that they do is they transport that petroleum in pipelines.
that's true.
Do they have anything to do with weapons manufacturing too, or is that no?
Probably. I mean, don't fossil fuels make like most products?
That's true.
That's like it's kind of the foundation of a lot
Honestly,
of things.
Yo, when I realized that fossil fuels created plastic,
Yeah.
that sent me on like a 3-week spiral.
Yep.
And someone I was like 16. I'm
Right.
not saying like I didn't
Right.
realize
You
this
ran
like
out
last
yesterday, yeah.
week. But I was like, oh, okay.
But it's like, oh, that hill we have to climb just got that much bigger.
Right, exactly. It went from like Kilimanjaro to Everest.
Yeah.
Okay. Without further ado, let's do it. Which team do you want to do first?
Let's do the Pirates first.
Okay, the Pittsburgh Pirates have chosen Sheets Incorporated, Alex. Sheets Incorporated. Sheets Incorporated is an American chain of convenience stores and coffee shops, that's a stretch, owned by the Sheets family. The stores sell custom food, beverages, and convenience store items, with all locations having offered 24/7 services since the 1980s. Sheets is not a member of the Fortune 500, though they did clear $7.2 billion in revenue
Good for them.
in 2023. Headquartered in Altoona, Pennsylvania, they have 700 stores located in central and western Pennsylvania, not eastern, though. Not eastern PA. You know why? Because fucking that's Wawa
That's
territory,
Wawa territory,
brother.
Yeah.
I feel like the
Turf
Phillies.
wars.
I feel like the Phillies are gonna do Wawa now.
They have. I mean, they
They kind of
absolutely
have to do it. I mean, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. West Virginia, Maryland, Ohio, Virginia, and North Carolina, with plans to expand to Michigan. Sheets and Wawa are like Coke and Pepsi. Okay, what are two other products that are like that? I don't know. 7-Up and Sprite.
Yeah.
I know more than just sodas.
Just-
I do. They're like the Mets and the Yankees.
Okay.
I refuse to say
Like-
which is which.
like Mac and PC, you know? They're like,
Great one. Great one.
They're
They're like
like-
Apple and Android.
yep.
And they stay off each other's turf. Which
Like
is why
Fruit of the Loom and Gildan.
these are you went Haynes.
That's true.
Gildan.
Gildan.
Wow, big shouts for Gildan. Sheets is a gas station and it has a deli and a convenience store inside, just like Wawa. Wawa started, I think they both started as convenience stores and then they added gas because what else would you do?
Right.
As America continues to be centered around cars. Yeah, Sheets is in Western PA and they expand more into the Midwest. And Wawa is in Eastern PA and they expand more on the Eastern Seaboard. Like the DC area, they have locations in Florida as well. New Jersey is Wawa country. Sheets is bad.
Okay.
It's a disaster. Their food is hardly edible. Last time I was in a Sheets, I stopped in there because there was nowhere else to stop. And I needed gas. I was driving through Pennsylvania, which is a tough sit. And I went over and I got their coffee, their hot coffee, which comes out of a machine that you have to press buttons on. It's very similar. I feel very similarly to that as Michael Boutman feels about SodaStream. You just have to press a bunch of buttons and stuff. And I got my coffee and I was like, all right, great. They had no lids. So then I just have this gigantic hot coffee, no lid. Is this an anecdotal experience? Yes.
Sounds like a skill issue.
Is this whose skill are we talking about?
What are you afraid of spilling your coffee?
While driving? Yeah. That's a pretty fearful thing. I wouldn't want my coffee to go everywhere. Imagine you get in a fucking little fender bender and you have 3rd-degree burns now. Okay?
All right, fair. My favorite part about their Wikipedia page is just at the very top, not to be confused with sheets. Like bed sheets. Do you think that's happened
That's
before?
what
Has
I
there
was
ever-
going to read to you.
Oh, damn it.
That's great. You crushed it. Do I think that's ever happened before?
Like, is there someone who was like looking for bed sheets and was like,
I
hang
can't
on,
find them.
I'm
now.
really confused. What do you mean bed sheets are a 24/7 convenience store?
That's all I got on Sheets. The place kind of stinks, but it is a staple of Western PA, just like the Pittsburgh Pirates. So I'm not mad at the choice. Now, all that being said, where would you put Sheets on our list of the jersey sponsors, ranked by how evil they are?
It's a great question, Bobby. Some say the reason we're here today. I will say in my cursory research the history of Sheetz. I did see that they are currently being sued by the federal government for
Badge of honor.
discrimination in
Ooh,
their hiring practices.
Never mind, I take that back.
Because I think they were basically tossing anyone who had any sort of like criminal history, which was like disproportionately discriminating against Black, Native American, and multiracial job seekers. So not great.
Yeah, that's not good.
That said,
It's tough because
in terms of offenses on this list,
you've already decided to place Meyer, Quick Trip. Meyer and Quick Trip were 18th and 17th out of 19
Right.
on our original list. And Sheetz is kind of in the Meyer and Quick Trip zone.
Yeah.
In terms of company structure. For some insane reason, you decided to place Kroger 14th.
You say you decided, like I'm the only one who had a say
I was
in this.
advocating for them to be like 6th.
You could have moved them up.
I tried. You had them at 18 to start. I feel like I bumped those numbers up pretty good.
All right. Well,
FBM somehow more evil than Kroger.
a lot of FBM chat. All right. Well, at
They're just
risk,
sending around nails and fucking 2x4s. I don't know what they did.
at risk of diluting this list even more, then why don't you? Where would you put them?
I think I would put them
big guy.
I would put them like this is tricky.
Not so fucking easy, is it?
I would put them 15th. No, 16th. I would put them between Avnet and Motorola.
Okay.
I think they're less evil than less evil than Avnet, more evil than Motorola. This is like when you take the SAT. It's like you have to put things. If this is like this, then this is like that.
Right, yeah.
What do you think about that? I think Sheetz is more evil than Quick Trip and Meyer. I still don't know what Meyer is. And
No. Yeah.
And Quick Trip is like Sheetz but smaller.
Right. So can't possibly be as evil, just like impact wise.
Hold on.
Or wait, no, Quick Trip. Wait, Sheetz is smaller than Quick Trip?
I think Quick Trip is smaller than Sheetz.
Oh, right.
That could be wrong. Hold on, I'm looking up their locations.
By the way, next week's episode is going to be us in each of these locations, talking to the real Americans.
I don't think the people at Sheetz would want to talk to you. Ooh, Quick Trip has 400 more locations. No, sorry, 300 more locations. However, they were ranked as one of the 100 best companies to work for.
Sheetz or Quick Trip?
Quick Trip in 2006. I think Sheetz is more evil than Quick Trip.
I think we should start our own publication that ranks places to work.
I agree.
Just so we can get our name on one of these lists.
I feel like we could have a whole podcast just doing this.
Just doing this ranking?
Every company.
Yeah.
Like, this could be our power broker.
Our buy work free.
I was going to say, like, our life's work. Like, every week, someone submits a new company and we place them into our running list. We have, like, a whole composite score.
Right.
You know, like how Forbes has their composite scores for how fucking important companies are.
Don't joke about this, because there's nothing I love more than like a Z-score, bro.
If you think I'm joking, it's like you've never even met me before.
I know. It's like we haven't done 7 years of this podcast together.
It's like we don't have 700 recorded hours of speaking to each other.
I like that placement.
Okay. I don't remember what it was.
It was
16.
It was 16.
Right?
It was between
Motorola
and Motorola.
Okay.
I was kind of toying with Motorola. I don't know if Sheetz is more evil than Motorola.
You have to remember, it's just Motorola.
True. It's not Motorola Solutions,
right?
The surveillance company.
Yes, it's just Motorola, just
Right.
the ones who make razors.
Yes,
not the ones who are providing the
good
chips
Motorola.
that the IDF uses.
Exactly.
Easy mistake to make,
That's
frankly.
fair.
And if you're listening at home, I don't blame you. Yeah, exactly.
So I see you are writing it in at 17 now.
I'm just saying how it feels.
Okay.
I think it feels right there. Oh, no. Oh, sorry. I put it in the wrong spot.
That's why I was a little confused by that.
Pay no attention to the man putting it in the wrong place. I still don't know what Avnet does. They're like a software company. I just know that Ken Kendrick chose them. And that feels bad to me.
They're supply chain and logistics, bro.
They're on the Fortune 500 number 163.
Oh,
This was the Charles Avnet guy, the 33-year-old Russian Jewish immigrant. And he started by buying radio parts. Remember I talked for like 40 minutes about
Yeah,
him
you
during
love
World
this.
War II?
Uh-huh.
He made antennas for the U.S. Armed Forces.
Yep.
His son Lester joined the business around that time. In case you wanted to know.
I had forgotten that fact, but I appreciate you refreshing my memory.
In March 2019, Avnet announced that it was working with blockchain payment provider BitPay to accept cryptocurrency as payment for products and services.
About fucking time, too. I've been trying to pay like that for years with them.
Top 3 places that you pay BitPay. Pay with BitPay. X the Everything app.
Right. Matt Iglesias newsletter.
Okay, great. That's number 3. Fucking Maddie. Maddie, why? You know?
That and then just 2 AI powered appliance marketplaces.
Samsung.
Yeah. Well, it's Samsung, and then there's another one. But I'm not going to put y'all onto that one.
Right.
That's my secret.
Where would Starbucks slot? I know you go there every day.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they don't accept my BitPay yet. So, okay, Sheets between Avnet and Motorola.
Great.
16th on this list. That would make it the 5th least evil jersey patch sponsor.
Congrats to Bob Nutting finishing 5th to worst once again.
Well, that's 5th to best.
Right, true.
Once again,
congrats to Bob Nutting finishing in 5th again.
We still cannot get right what is first and what is last.
Fuck, that's really annoying because that's a much funnier joke if I said congrats to Bob Nutting for finishing 5th again.
Yeah.
God damn it. God damn it.
Cut it out. I'll pretend like you didn't say anything.
So this is the level of transparency we're coming to you with. We're working it out in real time. This is basically like we're doing a 15-minute set at the Comedy Cellar before our Netflix special. The Netflix special, of course, being our pod with A-Rod.
Yeah.
Okay. That takes us to our next jersey sponsor, the Baltimore Orioles. This one's perfect. Just for the whole new Orioles vibe.
Yeah.
Baltimore Orioles have sewed a patch onto their jersey to advertise for the company T. Rowe Price. T. Rowe Price Group Incorporated is an American publicly owned global investment management firm that offers funds, sub-advisory services, separate account management, and retirement plans and services for individuals, institutions, and financial intermediaries. The firm has assets under management of more than $1.51 trillion and annual revenues of $6.48 billion as of 2023, placing it 537 on the Fortune 1000. Didn't crack the top 500.
Work harder.
Headquartered at 100 East Pratt Street in Baltimore, Maryland, it has nearly 8,000 employees across 17 international offices serving clients in 55 countries. The firm was founded in 1937 by Thomas Rowe Price Jr. I'm referred to them by their government name, Thomas Rowe Price.
Thomas Rowe Price.
Okay, so we got another investment firm. How do you judge this?
It's one of these things where the fact that there is nothing out there on them makes me more skeptical. You know, I'm like, what are you hiding?
Yeah. Right.
You're a wealth management fund that doesn't have a controversies section on your Wikipedia.
Maybe they're trying to hide the fact that they're getting great returns for their 401ks.
Right. Which is something famously you want to hide as a wealth management fund, that your fund performs well.
You don't want, they want to be the boring ones, you know? They don't want to be like Bernie Madoff. They attract all the attention for the wrong reasons. Just to remind people, we have a little bit of a car crash in the middle of our list here of mutual funds, investment funds, and banks.
Yeah.
I'm going to read you number 9 through number 12. The Milwaukee Brewers with Northwestern Mutual, the Boston Red Sox with Mass Mutual, the Miami Marlins with ADT. That's home security. And 12 is the Toronto Blue Jays with TD Bank. We got a lot of feedback on that TD Bank segment, by the way, because we kept talking about TD Bank, thinking that it was the same as the TD Bank here, but apparently they have like a separately headquartered Canadian TD Bank, and that's the one that's, I think it's the same. They have the same name and logo. Same to me. So where would you slot T. Rowe Price among this list?
So interestingly, actually, the Carlyle Group,
I'm familiar with the Carlyle Group.
founded by one David Rubenstein.
Exactly. Founding member. Carlyle Group. Don't
Now
ask them where they were
now owner
2 weeks before 9/11.
now owner of the Baltimore Orioles. The Carlyle Group was actually founded in part with an investment from Thomas Rowe Price.
Fascinating. And look how far they've come.
So
They've
they go
leapfrogged
way
them.
back.
Yeah. But the Carlyle Group manages like way more money.
No, I do. Yeah. Yes, they do.
Wow. Freudian slip. You are the Carlyle Group. I always knew that you were moonlighting for them.
Oh.
Do you think that listeners at home can tell when the podcast becomes just like a little unhinged? Like when we start doing segments like this, do you think they can tell like, oh,
yes.
an energy has shifted?
Yes.
Okay.
Because we start sounding more confident.
Who out there is doing it better than us
Who's
when it
doing
comes
it?
to ranking the jersey sponsors?
T. Rowe Price has moved from passive management to active management of investments.
That's when you really start to lose them.
I was like, I'm more of a passive income guy, passive person. Also true. I'm the passive management of tipping pitches, and you're the active management.
What is the difference between passive and active management?
I think active management is like you are the one selecting your portfolio of investments.
Okay.
And passive
means like I can go on to T. Rowe Price and they choose what to do with them.
Yeah.
It's about a 50-50 shot as to whether you got that right.
Yep. And someone will let me know. But I do think like passive is more meant to like track the broader, like, it will be like ETF funds, like index funds, like things that are tracking the broader performance of the market.
Explain to me what an ETF fund is.
So it's you asked me this like 6 months ago. You remember this?
I
right?
do, yeah.
And I got it wrong then. I remember that much.
I'm over here on Investopedia, so I'm working with the facts.
Investopedia guy.
Yeah. ETF fund for beginners.
I don't even know that it's worth trying to guess if I'm being honest, because I think I'm going to say the same thing I said last time.
Traded fund. Yeah, last time you said electronic.
Yep, that's what I was going to say this time too.
You're nothing if not consistent.
I'm nothing if not a millennial.
An
really.
exchange traded fund is a pooled investment security that can be bought and sold like an individual stock. ETFs can be structured to track anything from the price of a commodity to a large and diverse collection of securities. ETFs can even be designed to track specific investment strategies. Various types of ETFs are available to investors for income generation, speculation, and price increases, and to hedge or partly offset risk in an investor's portfolio.
I don't know anything you just said.
So an ETF is basically like, this is a group of things.
Right, yes.
So the S&P 500, for example, you can trade on the S&P 500 as an ETF.
Right, if you just want to trade on the actual stock market.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Could I pool all of the stocks of the jersey sponsors and trade them as an ETF?
I mean, yes, you could.
Did you make this joke when we did this pod a few months ago?
I think we discussed it when we did. Yes.
Phenomenal.
We're firmly in retreading jokes territory.
It's working really well for Jerry Seinfeld at the moment.
Okay. T. Rowe Price.
Okay. Dun, dun, dun.
I am feeling
insane that Quick Creed is number 6 on this list. What did they ever do to you?
I was going big with like environmental impact when we were making this list.
You really were.
I still feel vindicated by that.
You're an environmental anarchist.
I am.
That's what you are.
I don't know. I'm feeling maybe like a light 7.
So you think they're...
It's in like the 7 to 10 range, I think.
Fascinating. So for some reason you think they're more evil than Northwestern Mutual, Mass Mutual, and TD Bank.
Well,
what about them? What about them makes them more evil than the other financial companies on this list?
That's a great question.
Is it the ETFs?
It is. Frankly, it's more
your speculation about them not having a controversies thing.
Kind of. I'm fascinated with our rationale of bumping down Stifel and Guggenheim. Also, wealth management funds.
Oh, I see. I don't remember the rationale for that. Guggenheim, I definitely remember it just being so huge.
Yeah.
That we were like, there's no way there's anything good going on here.
So you're advocating for T. Rowe Price, it sounds like. You think they're what, like top 10 or bottom 10, I guess?
I think that they're just somewhere closer to like, honestly, I would probably split the difference between Northwestern and
Just
Mass
put them
Mutual.
at 10.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably what I would do.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm all for anything that will continue to move Chevrolet down the list because I think that they're doing great stuff
they're
for
good.
the people
Yes.
of America.
Yeah.
Yes. So we can put them right behind Star Insurance. I just don't know why the other mutual funds are so low then at that point.
All right, fine. Put
And
them
what is-
at 11.
How did TD Bank slip all the way down to number 12?
Because I didn't know we were talking about the Canadian TD. American TD Bank, I'm all for.
Okay, so I'm putting them at 11?
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know. This feels bad.
It doesn't
feels
feel
bad
great.
as I go to type it in. 3 days ago on their website, they have an article titled "A New Era for Commodities," and I clicked on it to go read it, thinking that it would let us know whether or not I could invest in like water or something. And it says, "We apologize for the inconvenience, but this page has temporarily encountered an issue. Thank you for your patience."
Is that what did you want to invest in water? Is that what you're saying? You think that's the next frontier? You saw Mad Max and you were like, fuck, I got to get in on the ground.
Well, I saw that our friends at Walmart, conveniently not on this list because no baseball team has the bravery to allow Walmart to give them money to advertise. I saw that our good friends at Walmart have decided to pivot to all electronic pricing models. So they no longer put a printed out version of the price. They put electronic pricing next to all of their items. And an industry analyst said that the reason for that is because it, quote, "if it's hot outside, we can raise the price of water and ice cream."
How are you going to break news to me like that, like 40 minutes into this episode?
You're not online enough anymore.
I know.
You should see stuff like that.
I know I should. T. Rowe Price was among a dozen U.S. financial companies to put language in their annual reports warning about quote unquote divergent views or competing demands around ESG investing.
I don't know what that is.
That's environmental, social, and governance investing. It's like what has come into vogue in the last couple of years as companies are like, we need to make it look like we're doing stuff. And then everyone got mad at them and was like, well, now BlackRock is woke. And so they were like, whoa, we got to tone it back a little bit.
BlackRock is woke.
They are. If they're not on Buy Woke Free yet, someone's got to get them on there.
All right. This is for the third time I have to go to Buy Woke Free and see if
Jesus.
BlackRock is on there.
We're arguably giving them too many clicks at this point. Wow, Tesla's mildly woke, bro.
This is a bad website.
Speak for yourself.
What was I just coming here for? Oh, BlackRock. I like how when you search on Buy Woke Free, it opens a whole different tab. They're not on here either. T. Rowe Price feels bad.
Well, I agree. You advocated to bump them up or down the list. You advocated to bump them in one of the directions.
Apparently, Thomas Rowe Price Jr., the founder of T. Rowe Price, became well known as, quote, the father of growth investing, and was nicknamed, quote, the Sage of Baltimore. That's pretty cool. That's actually pretty cool. Oh, I have their board of directors here. Let's see if we recognize any of these names. Mark Bartlett, you know him from Ernst & Young?
Yeah, Marky B.
Yeah. Oh, actually, they have someone on their board of directors is of interest to you. Robert J. Stevens, former chairman and CEO of Lockheed Martin.
Also extremely woke.
That's kind of like par for the course.
Yeah.
I don't know. This feels like a toss-up. You think they should be 8th, and I think they should be 10th. So why don't we just put them
9th? Good work. That's consensus building right there. Wow, right below or above Chevrolet.
I just think it's so crazy that you put Chevrolet there. There's just no way that Chevrolet is less evil than Kroger.
Yeah, but Kroger's woke, according to Buy Woke Free. Kroger and Marathon, the only two jersey sponsors on buywokefree.com. I just want to point it out.
Is Marathon woke as well?
Mildly.
Mildly woke. Okay. Well, now that we've cleared that up.
Look, do you want to put Chevrolet number 1 right now?
No.
You want to number 21 right now?
I think we need to move on,
I think we do.
frankly. Okay, we've added T. Rowe Price. They're the new number 9. They're the 9th most evil jersey sponsor. And we have added Sheets. They are the 17th most evil jersey sponsor. We will publish this list like we did not last time on our Twitter account. Sorry, on our X the Everything app account. Would you like to?
Didn't you determine that's not what it's called? Isn't it not the Everything app?
It's the Everything app, not the Everything platform.
Oh,
which is what I had been saying. X the Everything. No, I think it's the Everything platform.
Dude, I saw a Cybertruck in the wild the other day.
I see them all the time.
What are you talking about? There's like 300 of them in the country.
I've seen them everywhere recently. There's one that parks on Lincoln. On Lincoln Street. Yeah.
It looks remarkably stupid.
It looks so bad.
It's really cool being like,
I shake my head
found the village idiot.
I just shake my head in disgust every time I walk past one, so everyone around me on the street knows that I disapprove.
I actually literally did that. I took a picture of it because I was like, I need to take a picture of this. And then I didn't want people thinking I was taking a picture because it was cool. So I laughed and shook my head as I walk away. I'm like, I need people to make sure they know.
Where did you see it?
It was at Union Square. Bro, bad vibes. Union Square.
Okay.
Cybertruck, while there was a pickleball takeover.
Oh my God.
The vibes were rough.
Yeah, I haven't seen any in Manhattan. Probably because they don't fit.
Right.
I feel like I've seen a few on the road, on the move in Pennsylvania.
Oh my God.
And then I saw...
It's made it to the Heartland?
Oh, there was one at Citi Field, parked in the parking lot. I told you about that.
Oh, you did tell me about that.
And people were over there taking selfies with it. And I have never been less proud to be a Mets fan.
So do you know that these are distinct? Were there any distinguishing features of the Tesla?
So are you saying it could have been the same one?
Well, I'm saying, this one has a decal that says "To the Moon" on it. And I actually think I've seen that decal on a Cybertruck before. Don't laugh. I have one on my car too.
Uh-huh.
On my Chevrolet. On my Chevy Cruze.
You have never owned a car.
So I'm just wondering, right, is it the same one?
No, I think it's a different one.
Okay.
Did you see the Tesla truck that went through the car wash and shut down?
I read something about that.
And the person got locked inside of it?
Yeah. That's cool. That actually, I do have to hand that one to Elon. That's a cool feature.
What, if you take it through a car wash or if it rains too hard, the truck stops
it locks
working?
you inside the car. Sorry.
Apparently, fire departments don't know how to get into it when that happens.
Right.
The information about how to disable the different features has not disseminated itself across the first responders of America. So you could just die in that thing. Which honestly, you are just basically paying $80,000 for a coffin.
Mm-hmm.
Or however much it costs.
It does kind of look like one.
It does. And it'll be in the ground one day, just like everybody's coffins. Okay, should we do some listener questions?
Yeah, let's hit some listener questions.
Okay. First question comes from Eric. We need a segment on the drama that unfolded in the Bronx this week. Judge getting plunked, Wednesday night's nail biter, Gunner getting plunked, O's going about their business to crush on Thursday, capped by David Simon's David Simon, my personal enemy, masterful takedown of Yankees Twitter. O's did this all with the bottom of their rotation, while the Yankees put up their theoretical best. Would you like to comment on T. Rowe Price's Baltimore Orioles takedown of the New York Yankees? First of all, beanball remains one of the dumber things that we have in our sport.
Yeah, you got to witness this.
I did.
Live.
Yes, I was at the game on Tuesday. This is actually where I was when I found out that Willie Mays passed. I was sitting in Yankee Stadium, surrounded by Yankees fans. Yankee Stadium is a disaster. It's a total nightmare. It's impossible to get into. I got there. First pitch was at 7:05. I got there at 6:55, and I made it in at 8.
Wow.
8. 8 is when I sat down at my seat in the 3rd inning. You know why? Because 40,000 people are trying to get into Yankee Stadium, and they're all filing in through one single file line.
Did you hear that's how they did NYU's graduation?
Yes,
too?
I did hear that. I personally blame Hal Steinbrenner for being too cheap to buy more metal detectors.
Yeah.
Like, it's as simple as that, you know? And on the way out, by the way, all coming out of a single file door, one door, like the size of my door. Everybody was coming out of that from the staircase. It's so crazy. And Yankees fans are so Yankee pilled that they're like, "Dude, great city, greatest team on earth, greatest stadium on earth. You don't like it, get here earlier." It's like, okay. Okay. I did do my part and buy 10 value chicken buckets so that the Yankees can afford to extend Juan Soto.
That's good. Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome. Yankees, they won't do a City Connect, but they will put Star Insurance on their jersey. Okay, that's all my thoughts about the Yankees. They did hit Aaron Judge in the hand. That was really unfortunate. Aaron Judge was pissed. He got hit in the hand, and as he did, I noticed this immediately. It looked kind of like he was walking out to the pitcher's mound after he got hit. He kind of dropped his bat and like he was walking it off, but he took a very roundabout route that walked close enough to the pitcher's mound that you could tell that he said something to the pitcher. And I believe that the Orioles hit another batter that night, and then there were a couple high and tight pitches from Yankees pitchers that night. And then 2 nights later, they hit Gunnar Henderson, and Gunnar Henderson spiked his bat in frustration, assuming that that was kind of retribution for what had happened to the Yankees hitters and Aaron Judge 2 nights earlier. And one of the stranger things that I've seen a catcher do in that circumstance, when Gunnar Henderson spiked his bat, Yankees catcher Jose Trevino kicked it back in Henderson's direction. All that to say, both of these teams are really good. They're scratching and clawing. They're going to be scratching and clawing for the AL East this year and probably for years to come. And I'm pretty refreshed by the idea of the American League East not having to constantly be about the Yankees and Red Sox anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing that I can take from this, even though I've been a noted Baltimore Orioles hater and skeptic for years now. Both of these teams are good and fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have a larger take about the Yankees Twitter or David Simon.
Nor I was not watching this game. I was just experiencing it through like seeing an occasional tweet from a fan of one fan base. Just like I would click on a tweet and I would scroll up and I would see there's like dozens and dozens of replies. And I'm like, all right, this is too much, guys. It's a fucking baseball game. Chill.
The two teams have kind of polar opposite vibes. Like the Yankees are kind of old and patched together with younger bright spots, Soto and Anthony Volpe, and that's kind of it. And the Orioles obviously have this youth movement, and they're incredibly cheap, and they're kind of like the new team on the block in terms of success. And the Yankees have that sort of haughty, we've been around forever, we're the only franchise that matters energy about them. And so it is a little bit like oil and water when they come together. There's like a fun verve about Baltimore's fan base and team right now. And there's a institutional annoyingness about the Yankees team and their fan base. And I think that makes for high stakes. And I'd love to see these teams play in the playoffs, honestly. 2 great ballparks to watch on TV. Can't speak for going to Baltimore because I've never been, but I know that everybody loves that stadium.
Yeah, it's sick.
And my feelings about the Yankee Stadium have been made clear. It's ugly and impossible to get into, and then Yankees fans, it sucks to be around them. I wanted to wear my Orioles nationalized baseball t-shirt, but it's long sleeve and it was like 100 degrees. Otherwise, I would have done it.
Yeah.
Just know that my heart was in the right place.
It was. You were wearing it in your head.
But what I actually ended up wearing was a Derek Jeter jersey.
Did you actually?
No. Wouldn't be caught dead in a Yankees jersey.
What were you wearing? So you were not a fan of either of these teams. So did you do like neutral team? Did you just get a fit off?
I just got a fit off.
Okay.
Yeah. I was just wearing a black button up. The black button up Everlane jersey that I have?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, that was what I was wearing. I was kind of Yankees fan coded, honestly.
Right.
With like the undershirt
Yankees fan
underneath it. Yankees fan passing. Okay, let's go to voicemails.
Hey, Bobby and Alex. This is Aaron. Love the show. I'm kind of at a loss with seeing all this stuff about the Negro League statistics being counted as Major League statistics, or how I guess it all works. I guess I just don't trust Major League Baseball that much. Maybe I'm too skeptical, but I kind of feel like by changing up how the statistics work, the league is working in some way to kind of erase everything that they did, by acknowledging a couple of guys' accomplishments. They can kind of push under the rug everything that they did, everything that they were complicit in, and, same with all the fans and the media and anybody else who's involved in everything there. And anyways, love the show. Keep up the good work.
Aaron, thanks for calling in. We had a long discussion with Clinton Yates about this a couple years ago when they first announced that they were going to do this move. I definitely suggest you go back and take a listen to that, because he unsurprisingly, I think had some really nuanced and incisive perspectives on this move. I really appreciated our conversation with him about that.
I think Clinton is like the number one person whose opinion you should care about on this specific thing.
Yeah.
So if you haven't listened to that episode, or you haven't read what Clinton has written about, or there was actually an episode of the ESPN Daily podcast which Clinton now hosts about this exact thing, and diving in a little bit deeper to the history of this effort, which started back in the early 2000s to acknowledge the Negro League statistics as Major League Baseball statistics, and is now just finally paying dividends. They're now officially doing that. But this is something that's been a long time coming. I think the controversy over it had a lot to do with the wording in the statement of elevating the Negro League statistics, which didn't need elevation. And that was the statement at the time. That's what we talked to Clinton about. Anyway, long way of saying, you should go listen to that episode of the ESPN Daily, which is like 30 minutes. And I think it was eye-opening even to me as someone who's been following this story for years.
Yeah, we'll link to it in the description. I think I echo a lot of your concerns, Aaron. And I do think it was weird. I mean, I was on Fangraphs the other day and just kind of playing around with it and navigating over to, Josh Gibson's page. It is a little jarring to see what level did he play at? MLB, right? There's nothing on there. If you were just searching for players just bouncing around, there's nothing on there that would necessarily indicate that he did not play in Major League Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like, now there's the little story up top because he was mentioned in the news article that talks about,
he did not play.
This move, but
this
like,
is weird phrasing though. He did not play
Yes.
in the American League or the National League.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. He played professional baseball. He played in the major leagues, but he did not play in the institution of Major League Baseball. And
As we now know it.
As we
Yes.
now know it. Yes. And that's something that, like, it's hard to have reflected in just a list of statistics, but I do think it's something that, like, the game is not finished reckoning with. I think Major League Baseball's hopes are that they can say, we cleaned that part up of our history.
It's not only not finished reckoning with it, it's like barely starting.
Yes.
You know, like to me, that commission that they put together to formalize and codify the Negro League statistics in the early 2000s, I think it was 2002, where they were putting together a group of baseball historians to say, can you go back and verify that these statistics are real? They are not collected anywhere formally with multiple sources. And what these people did is they went through newspaper articles and they went through box scores throughout the entire history of baseball, the entire history of the Negro Leagues. And they said, yes, we believe with confidence that this happened. This is a statistic that we can verify, or no, we didn't. And that's why these are incomplete, the statistics. And some of them are listed, some of the statistics are listed like with full confidence, and some of them are listed as speculative or just not listed at all. And that squishiness is a level of squishiness that we don't perceive that we have with Major League Baseball statistics, because we believe that this was always being codified officially throughout that. But honestly, to me, they're just as real. Now, whether you want to talk about the competition levels for the leagues, how would I know that? How would any of us even deign to start to opine about the competition levels between the American League, the National League, the Negro American leagues, the different, the Negro National League? Like, I have no idea. I watch 100 baseball games a year, and I wouldn't even be able to tell you whether the American League or the National League is more competitive now, let alone just trying to put myself 100 years in the past and say it. So what do? I trust historians, and historians tell me Negro leagues at the time might not have had the depth or the professionalization, but they certainly did have the top level talent. That's good enough for me. So I think that it's important to keep the nuance of talking about the fact that these leagues were different. They were intentionally different. They were intentionally designed to be that way. They were segregated for a reason, but that the Negro leagues had their own merit, and that merit deserves to be acknowledged as on the same level as the Major League Baseball statistics that we have always known. You don't need to get, your life isn't going to change because there's a different person's name and a different number next to it than the one that you thought that you knew as the holy number of whoever had the most hits or whoever had the most home runs or whoever had the most RBIs or pitcher wins or whoever. It doesn't change just because we're codifying those statistics. That stuff happened either way. And so I don't think it hurts I don't think this project is a bad thing. I think that Aaron's concern is a valid one, though. That MLB will now say, done and dusted. We've done our job here. We've acknowledged that was a mistake, and now we've done. This is the peak compliment that we can give it. We care about statistics more than anything, right? So now we're acknowledging this is real. That's not what I want to see come from this. And of course, that's what the league will try to do. That's what the league tries to do every year with Jackie Robinson, as a microcosm of how they feel towards black baseball. I just think it's incumbent on people not to let them do that. And I think that there are plenty of people within this effort who are not allowing Major League Baseball to do that. It's just that once those people, the statisticians that have been asked to do this project, the people like Bob Kendrick, who has been the sort of liaison between the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum and the Statistical Committee and Major League Baseball, acknowledging these stats and more broadly acknowledging the Negro Leagues history. Once someone like Bob Kendrick is not in the picture enough to keep this nuance alive, I think that's when you start to worry that like a next commissioner doesn't do the justice of talking actively about the differences and the nuances and the legacy of the Negro Leagues.
Hey guys, it's Nick. It is one of the preeminent Brewers fans listening in here. Very, very, very frustrated with the past couple of nights in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. As some of you may know, it's Craig Counsell's return to Milwaukee for the first time that he took the job with the Cubs, and a lot of people online are kind of really telling on themselves a little bit about kind of the way that they're thinking about Craig Counsell, the way that they're talking about him moving forward, saying things like, oh, he's a traitor, he's a snake, like he was born in like a city near Milwaukee, so he's like a hometown guy, so why is he leaving to go coach the enemy or whatever? And it's just the biggest example of how Brewer fans, speaking as one with that experience, have such a little brother complex when it comes to the Brewers and the Cubs rivalry. Like, it's one of the things, like the meme where the two guys that are in the elevator and the one guy's like, I hate you, and then the other one's like, I don't think about you at all. That's the relationship here. The Brewer fans like have essentially poisoned themselves into thinking that their way of doing business, of just running a really low payroll and making the best out of a situation where the owner, being incredibly poor and Mark Adonazio, has not done enough to get the team where it needs to be, and somehow implying that like that's a better position to be in than a team with a $200 million payroll with the Cubs. So I'm frustrated about it. Not really a question. It's more just me kind of getting that off my chest a little bit.
Thank you, Nick. Hey, that's what this space is for.
Exactly.
Honestly, you do not have to call in with a question. In fact, I think we initially launched this as like a place to just like
Complain about your owner.
vent, do it. So I want
There's
to
like a
encourage you
decent
listeners
chance
to do the same.
That when you call the voicemail, it still says that. Like, complain about your owner. Like,
Right.
I actually don't know what it says when you call the voicemail. That voicemail is 785-422-5881, by the way. The whole Craig Counsell situation was weird in that the fan base, parts of the fan base, maybe the organization, I don't really know, was trying to pressure him to staying because he's from Milwaukee or he's from Wisconsin, as if he should take some type of hometown discount, when the Brewers and Atanasio have shown varying at best levels of commitment to spending to win. And it was clearly important to Counsell to reset the manager salary market and to have a new challenge, to to not have to spend his entire excellent managerial career trying to make the most out of the Island of Misfit Toys approach, for lack of a better phrase. That, and I'm not trying to shit on the Brewers, by the way. Like, and they have done great things with the resources. The people in charge there have done great things with the resources they've been afforded.
Right, Stearns primarily. I think.
But sometimes you don't want to have to play with one hand tied behind your back, like we've been talking about. And sometimes you don't need to. But certain organizations are pot committed to doing that. And the Brewers are one of them. The Brewers are one of them because Atanasio is broke boy. Broke boy ownership. Sorry. Money talks. Let's go to the next question.
Hey guys, love the show, man. Just listened to the last episode. How much do you think of the hypocrisy or the furor, the rage over the gambling has to do with keeping the sport clean, quote unquote, so that bettors don't start raising questions, so that the line is true, and it doesn't appear that it's been tampered with or thrown or whatever. I think it has a lot to do with it, man. But love the show. Yeah.
Thanks for the question. I think it's a more than plausible explanation. I think that people like Rob Manfred and Adam Silver are elated to bring the hammer down on players who run afoul of the sports betting rules, because you indicate that the landscape is safe,
right,
for the small guy like you and me, Bob, who are just placing our little parlays every day. You know, the sport is clean. We have gotten rid of these bad actors. We have a no tolerance policy. You know, you can be guaranteed that your money is safe with us. It is being placed on a fair ball game.
Yeah. And there at some point could be a critical mass of people, but also just events that happen that damage that trust in a way that it's not gonna prevent people from betting. Like, the people who want to bet are probably gonna bet. But what it will do is that if it starts to create mistrust and it starts to feel like the sport is too rigged, then you won't capture new bettors. And this is not your eternal cash cow in the way that they're clearly financially setting themselves up in hopes that it is. And so I think that to continue to grab new bettors, there has to be a perception that there's a chance to win.
Yeah.
And if it seems like it's stacked against you, or if it seems like there's foul play or bad actors within that, then, and you're not already committed to gambling, or you're not already lightly addicted to it, or if you're not already heavily addicted to it, then why would you start doing it? You know, why would you get yourself into that? It's like smoking. You know, if you make it to 28, for example, and you've never smoked cigarettes before, you
Why
start to
would
get the
you?
urge to smoke cigarettes. You're like, why would you do that?
The answer is because it's cool.
Yeah.
But
Well, the answer is because when you're coming out of a movie and you're walking down the street and you're just like, I need something to do with my hands. Okay, final question for this week.
Fidget spinners for adults.
I mean, isn't that what
kind
it
of,
is?
Kind of literally what it is, yeah.
Like, not kind of. Like,
hey, fellas. Look, I got a bone to pick. I don't know, man. This Alex is a Phillies fandom seems like a little bit of a sham. I don't know. Is he a Phillies fan? Is he a Mets fan? Or is he still an A's fan? Kind of seems like he's just an A's and a Mets fan. I don't know.
for context, I'm not going to dox this person, but for context, this call comes from a 215 number. So this is a Phillies fan, most likely, who feels a little hard done by your fraudulence.
That's good. Stand up for yourself, and your team. I admire this.
You're kind of like Joe Biden in a way.
Yeah.
Where like you keep saying you're a Phillies fan. You keep saying you're a progressive. But does the track record align with it?
No, it doesn't. My voting history doesn't.
Most pro-union president in history. Okay. And what's going on? He's spending all of his time trying to pass border security bills.
Right.
Put your money where your mouth is, Crack down on Starbucks. Crack down on Amazon. Crack down on the Mets.
Look,
you won't.
I do feel like I'm between a bit of a rock and a hard place here.
I got to the point where I was just comparing the Mets to Starbucks.
I don't really know either, but I'm going to let you sit with that one.
Okay.
I have our fans to answer to, of course. All the Phillies fans who listen to us, and the rest.
We should start calling our listeners partners.
I don't even know if that really because Starbucks calls their employees partners.
We need to like corporatize it, a little bit. Like McKinsey calls their company a firm. They're not a company; they're a firm.
Right. So we're like a media conglomerate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe we could I guess we could just call them friends.
Consumers.
That's worse.
I thought that was the point of it. I didn't. Oh, that's right. We want it to be corporate,
right?
But
when you said I have the
fans
to answer to, I was like, that seems mean. They're more than just fans. They're more than just listeners. They're partners.
Yeah. Okay.
In this
you're
endeavor.
Right. Well, which I think it makes my case for me. I have them, and then look, I have you. I have to answer to you every time we sit down and do this podcast.
Yeah, you do.
And to be honest, it scares me a little bit.
For whom the bell tolls, Alex. Mm-hmm. Allies? Nope. Associates? Colleagues? Companions? Friends? Accomplices? I'm just looking at thesaurus.com. Buddies? Cohorts? Cohorts is not bad.
Cohorts.
That's what we call our listeners now.
Yeah. So, but what is an individual listener? A cohort? Okay.
I like companion.
I like companion too.
I need once and for all a campaign commitment from you to truly nail down whether you're a Phillies fan or not.
Look, Jack, it's a tough issue. Okay, not all these kids want to think it's black and white these days, but we're having tough conversations behind closed doors.
Yep.
And frankly, this sort of disagreement is what America is fundamentally all about. The fact that you and I can sit down on opposite sides of the table and have
one person a real Mets fan, one person a closeted Mets fan who's a fake Phillies fan.
Right.
That's what America was founded
civil dialogue.
That's what they pushed the tea into the harbor for.
Exactly.
This is what it was all for. Speaking of pushing the tea into the harbor, Alex.
Yeah. That was a good I actually know that was well done.
I still got it. Our friends at Bat Flips and Nerds over there across the proverbial pond, something that you have to say when you're talking about the UK, across the pond from us. They were doing a recap of the events of the London series and the week around it. And part of that recap, I gotta say, I'm just very, very impressed by this. Part of that recap was reviewing your British accent on their podcast. And we're going to play that clip here. I haven't heard this. So I'm just so excited to hear what they have to say about your British accent.
Okay, this one's a bit left field. So we all listen to Tipping Pitches, right?
We all
Tipping
know what
Pitches.
fantastic
podcast.
We know
enjoy.
what Tipping Pitches is all about.
We do know what it's all about, absolutely. So, listen, I was listening to the episode before Alex came over to London, and he briefly debuted his British accent, and I immediately thought that sounds like an excitable Ben Carter. And I cannot now get that out of my head when he was doing it. Go back, listen to it. You will hear Ben Carter, but like more excitable every single time. So
Wow.
it's from the baseball hemisphere. So there you go. It's Alex sounds exactly like Ben Carter when he's being British.
Yeah, a little wrinkly bad in here. We didn't get to catch up with Alex whilst he was over, despite our best efforts. He kept.
I tried. I stood in a stand and shouted Alex really loud, but no one got up.
I was present when you did that, and
were
then
not
the following day, genuinely thought that a man with the most New York accent I've ever heard was going to kill me. Whilst I was looking for Alex and was apparently, and I quote, blocking home plate.
I would say
You're not going to play the clip where they played a clip of our podcast on their podcast.
Do they do that?
Yeah, they do.
God, that rules.
That it certainly somethings.
I feel like they think you acquitted yourself nicely.
I think they were far too kind.
Yeah, they were maybe a little light on you because they're friends of the show.
Yeah,
John's been on the show before.
Mm-hmm.
Probably overdue for a little crossover again. Hey guys, thank you for listening.
Yeah,
thank you for all your support,
good fellas,
over the years. Check out Bad Flips and Nerds.
Yeah,
they do great stuff all year round, not just around the London series. I have one more piece of audio to play for you, and you don't know what this is.
I don't know what it is.
Speaking of the London series, Alex, you did a crossover episode with Steven from Batting Around. And we ran that episode on our Patreon feed. Great conversation, nicely done. Great work. You were in your host bag on that episode. Mm-hmm. You know, you had to just do all the formal stuff. You had to move the conversation along. You had to end it.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. We both sat down and we were like, what's the move? What do we do here?
Well, Batting Around also ran that on their Patreon, and Batting Around host and producer Jane Aust created a little intro for that episode that I just thought is so funny. So I'm going to play it here.
Okay.
As a shout out to Jane, as well as a vote of confidence for if you don't already listen to Batting Around and sign up for their Patreon to go check it out. Because this is the kind of stuff that this is the kind of craftsmanship you're going to get over there.
These are the only free ads we do on this podcast, by the way, is just for our friends, for other podcasts.
And for a lot of companies.
Tell us a little bit about what you saw and being able to relay that message to Cora when you saw Kimbrel pitch and kind of help out so he wasn't batting around. So batting around, we hear about it all the time. People at home understand what batting around's all about. It's amazing. That's remarkable.
It's so good. It's so good.
Oh my goodness.
I know. Round of applause. Round of applause. That level of effort and craftsmanship that Jane's putting in over there is just
it's remarkable work. Go listen to Batting Around.
That's all I got. I have no more audio clips for you to play this week. I have no more voicemails to play.
No, you don't.
We did just get another listener email, but we'll save that for next week.
You know what you do have left to do, though?
What do I have?
You have to rank some shit.
Oh, shit. That's so true. I forgot about that. Okay.
Let's do it. You have to be out of here in 11 minutes.
True. As always, I have a movie to go to.
Do you want to share with the listeners? What is it?
Kinds of Kindness.
Okay.
The New Yorgos Lanthimos movie, anthology film. I don't know. I heard it was kind of a one big middle finger, so I'm looking forward to it.
We love that. All right. Back on the ranking segment.
Mm-hmm.
It's the one. You know what it's all about.
That's
we don't have to tell you, and we won't.
Collective bargaining.
Selective bargaining. I do like that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. I will say, I saw Ben in the Slack note that for this to be like a blind ranking, what we should be doing is ranking before you're already shaking your head.
Yeah, because Ben is like he's so Gen Z. This is like what you do on TikTok, where you have to just like it just spits something out and you have to blindly rank it. in a TikTok video. That's not what this is for.
Like, I want to say, Ben, I was ready to entertain the idea.
This is
Bobby
for
shot it down.
scholarship.
Yeah.
This is for scholarship. We're trying to. I mean, if you want it, how about this?
No.
How about this, Alex?
What? No.
How about this, Alex?
Okay.
And how about this, Ben? And how about this, colleagues at home? Almost forgot what we were calling the listeners again.
Wasn't it companions?
I think I said colleagues. Companions is good. How about this, companions at home? What if the person who's creating the list decides whether it's blind or not? So you tell me whether or not you want me to do it blind or you want me to do it knowing everything.
All right, fine. Well, since you just spent 3 minutes denigrating the blind ranking, we're not going to do a blind ranking.
Fine, I'm going to make you do a blind ranking every time, though.
Okay, great. This week, I want you to rank these 5 superstitions.
Okay.
Based on...
I'm a very superstitious person.
You are a very superstitious person.
It's because I believe in God.
It actually is. You said you were going to see a movie, but what you're really doing is going to church after this.
Well, this was church.
That's fair. I want you to rank
Two
these 5
guys talking a lot. Varying levels of making sense.
Yeah, exactly. Incredibly esoteric, weird references.
Right. You have to kind of have like been listening for years to really understand what they mean by it.
Right. And you probably have to disregard a large portion of it anyway.
Right, exactly. And we're full of shit.
Yeah. Good. Glad we got that out of the way. Nothing like a little Catholic Church slander here. Rank these superstitions by, I guess, their effectiveness.
Okay. By how much I believe they matter.
By how much, you're right, your belief in them.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got it. I got this.
These are fan superstitions. I just want to say. Okay. Rally cap.
Okay.
Wearing like the same outfit or item of clothing.
Okay. Like the magical t-shirt.
Right, a magic t-shirt
Principle.
This is
I just coined that.
similar but different. The lucky charm.
Okay.
Maybe a little bias there for you.
Oh, you know about my lucky charm? My number 11 pool ball?
Yeah, of course. Okay. Do you think I don't? Are you kidding me? I'm
started my
offended.
superstition.
I'm offended.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Not mentioning the like perfect game or no hitter.
Okay. Yeah.
And then sitting in the same spot. So like having
yeah.
like that sort of routine.
Right.
Those are your 5.
That's a 5-way tie. They're all important.
They're all important.
Just kidding. I don't like rally cap.
Ooh.
I'm putting rally cap last.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little like Little League. It's one of the ones you learn during Little League. I feel it's one of the first superstitions you learn.
Yes, it is. But weirdly, one that pervades into Major League Baseball. Like you see Major League Baseball players doing this in the dugout frequently. But I was never much of a rally cap guy. Mostly because my head was too big to turn my hat inside out and get it on there. You know, it never really worked for me. So that's coming from a personal place of trauma. Rally cap number 5. Number 4, not mentioning the no-hitter. I am a believer in that as a fan, but I guess maybe I'm wrong though, because I did this to R.A. Dickey. Remember, I ruined his perfect game.
Yeah.
Shit. What were the other 4? Not mentioning the lucky shirt or piece of outfit, the lucky charm, and what's the 4th one? Oh, sitting in the same place.
Yeah.
They're all good. Yeah, I'll do not mentioning it number 4. I feel like you can usually get away with mentioning it. And what's the real difference between being like, he's got something really special going on here?
I know.
He's not allowed a base runner
Right.
yet.
The baseball gods are up there like, well, shit, he didn't actually say
Foiled
it.
again. He didn't say the words.
So close. Look, if Vin Scully isn't afraid to say it on a broadcast, I'm kind of like, all right.
I agree.
Good enough for me.
He's sort of a bit of he's kind of like the mouthpiece for the baseball gods in my mind.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that actually with Vin Scully because I was watching For Love of the Game recently, the Kevin Costner movie where it chronicles him throwing a perfect game in his final appearance, and Vin Scully is the broadcaster in that movie. Just calling it like it's a real baseball game.
Amazing stuff.
Okay, number 3, I'm gonna go with sitting in the same place. That is important to me. I feel as though I won the Super Bowl for the Giants by doing that against the undefeated Patriots. So I would like, if anyone with the power at home is listening, to get me one of those Giants Super Bowl rings, I would take it. I can send you my address offline. Okay, that's number 3.
I'll tell you that his address right now. If you want. It's 5.
Both Giants Super Bowls. The first one, I stood in the back at my family friend's house. I stood the whole time leaning against the wall with my hand. The second one, I sat on the staircase in my house watching next to a jersey that we had hung up to honor the fact that my sister wasn't there watching it with us. Okay. So I feel like I did it. I feel like I should at least get one Super Bowl ring from those two.
I agree.
Number 2, lucky shirt. Number 1, lucky charm. Lucky shirt. My faith has wavered in lucky shirts recently.
Okay. All right.
Because they win like 2 games and you're like, oh, this is the lucky shirt. And then it's not.
Yeah.
Because it always, but I feel like there is something really powerful to a lucky charm. It's like invigorating. You feel like nothing can touch you because you have this. Famously, I've probably told the story of the podcast. I know I've told it to you because you just said that you were offended that I didn't know that you knew. But I had a little pool ball charm with the number 11, which is my lucky number. That was on my baseball bag all throughout my entire baseball playing career. It broke off. I used to just keep it in the bottom of the bag after that because I always had to have it with me because the first time I put it on there, I had a great game that day. And I was like, well, this is the reason. Clearly.
Yeah.
Plus, I like magical items. I feel like that's one thing that baseball has that other sports don't really have. I think Homer sausage is a perfect example of that. I think Grimace is a perfect example of that.
God, no. All right.
You're out. You're so out. You're out on Grimace
and the pod.
For a man who can be so in on McDonald's, you're such a hypocrite for being out on Grimace.
I'm not out on Grimace. I think it's
you
a cute
are funding
bit.
Grimace.
Sorry, I think it's a cute X the everything app.
Yep.
Bit. Okay.
Could be everything platform. Not sure.
Yeah.
When we get Elon on, we'll ask him
next week
first. Okay. All right. Good list. I like it.
All right.
Just a recap. What was the
recap? You had 5 rally cap.
Mm-hmm.
You had
4 not saying the name.
4 not saying the name. 3 was sitting in the same spot.
2 was lucky outfit.
2 was lucky outfit. Number 1 is lucky charm. Now, are you like a lucky charm is like you have to be like holding it or touching it, or is it more just like it has to be like present?
Depends on the charm.
Okay, yeah, right.
I should like for the pool ball, it was like it had to be in my bag.
Yeah,
but for other things that have been lucky charms along the way, yeah, holding it or like putting it on the coffee table while the game is going on. I've done all of the above.
As long as it works, man. I don't care.
For a while there, I had a little lucky charm going where I had to eat a Jersey Mike's sub before every Sunday Mets game. It was like, they keep winning on Sundays, and we kept going to Jersey Mike's. No free ads.
No free ads.
Now it's like I'm eating at McDonald's just to say thank you to Grimace for all of his hard work.
Right, exactly. You're just doing your part.
For all of their hard work, I don't think Grimace is gendered.
That's true.
I don't mean to gender Grimace.
Yeah.
Okay. Good episode. Definitely a little weird. Just a little weird.
I always appreciate the qualifier at the end of almost every single one of our episodes. Of that one was a little weird.
Started out by honoring one of the greatest baseball players who's ever lived in a very serious way. Ended by talking about Grimace's gender. This is what you get. This is the Tipping Pitches experience. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you like to call our voicemail, colleagues,
compatriots.
I like. That's good. That's actually good. I'll put up a poll in the Spotify this week. Thanks, everybody, for listening. If you'd like to call our voicemail, 785-422-5881. If you'd like to write us an email, it's tippingpitchespod@gmail.com. If you'd like to sign up for our Patreon, where we will be doing another episode this week, if you can imagine us doing more talking and more content and more jokes, we'll be doing an episode of 3 Up, 3 Down on Wednesday of this week. That is patreon.com/tippingpitches. 3 different tiers. Top tier gets you access to bonus episodes. I think that's all I got for this week. And we'll see you on the Patreon feed in a couple of days and on the main feed in 1 week.
Hello, everybody. I'm Alex Rodriguez. Tipping Pitches.
Tipping Pitches.
This is the one that I love the most.
Tipping Pitches.
So we'll see you next week. See ya!